Alright guys, welcome back to another Tackle Tuesday video. This is going to be part 3 of the top 10 baits for beginners. I'm going to be picking the winner of the video I put out 2 days ago, which was part 2, and this week's part 3 video next week. So make sure you're subscribed, comment down below anything that I forgot to add for the video from 2 days ago, part 2, or today's video, part 3. So first bait we're going to start out with today is going to be the jerkbait. Now typically when you're throwing a jerkbait, you want to throw it in a lot clearer water than what I'm fishing right now, but I can't figure anything out down here, so I'm going to give it a shot. Anytime I throw a jerkbait, I like to throw it on a medium action rod with a really soft tip. That way they can load up on it and you don't rip it out of their mouth if you're going to jerk it again. This is I think I might have just got hit right there. Definitely did get hit right there. So definitely want to make sure when you're working your jerkbait, you want it to be all wrist motion, okay? You don't want to be pulling it back. And probably the most important thing with a jerkbait, can't tell if there was I had something on there, a big chunk of grass on there. I should also mention that we did have a 30-degree temperature drop since yesterday. Man, I keep feeling like I'm getting hit, but I think this thing might be going a little too deep, or else there's a bunch of stuff out here that it's coming into contact with, cover and structure wise. So as I was saying, have to make sure you have loose line, slack in your line when you're working a jerkbait. If you don't and you throw it tight, if that's a fish, that'll be sick, but I don't think it is. Damn, it's a stick. If you try to work a jerkbait with tight line, you're not going to get the action you want out of it. With a jerkbait, you're gonna get that real erratic action because you have all that slack line out there. See, I'm just coming in contact with the bottom too much with this. Gotta switch it up. Jerkbaits are gonna definitely be best used in the springtime and the fall when the bass are really starting to feed, either in pre-spawn or before they kind of go to sleep for the winter. See, I'm all up on the bottom right here. As far as line, you're gonna want to use, it's going to depend on the jerkbait you're throwing to help you pick your line. If you're throwing something that's more of a deep diver, you're going to want a lighter line, 10, 12 pound line. If you're throwing something more of a shallow diving jerkbait and you feel the need to, you can go up to 15 or whatever. Keep feeling like I'm getting hit with this thing, but I know I'm not. Well, like I said, jerkbaits are best for clear water, and this water is super dirty, but I at least wanted to tell you guys about it. So if you do have some clear water where you're at, you can go out there and check it out. Another big thing with the jerkbait is mixing up your pops. You don't want to just do 1 2 1 2. Okay, cast your jerkbait out there. A lot of guys like to reel it a couple times to get it down to that depth, and then when you got a little slack in the line, you're gonna pop it randomly, 1 time, maybe 3 times. All right guys, well there's the jerkbait. Very great fish catching bait, but it definitely takes some practice and you have to have the right conditions for it, and I do not right now. Alright guys, next bait we're going to be covering today is the chatterbait. Alright guys, so the chatterbait here, it's another super great bait for beginners to use. Pretty darn easy to use. Pretty similar to a crankbait in that it's very easy to tie on and go out and catch fish with. Very easy for beginners to use. This blade here, it's basically bladed jig, chatterbait, whatever you want to call it. It's just like a jig, has your skirt, has your ball jig head on there, but a chatterbait's going to have this little blade on here, which is going to give a lot of vibration, a lot of water displacement. So I've got a little Zoom Super Chunk Junior on here, a couple little paddle tails, super dirty water, so I'm throwing it in black and blue so it can stand out to them. Big thing with the chatterbait, probably most important thing or best time to throw it, you got to have grass around. So if you got some grass either real shallow or a little bit deeper, you can take this chatterbait, throw it, either run it along the top of the grass or bring it back through it. A lot of times if you got grass and you kind of pop it through the grass, jerk it through there, a lot of times when it breaks free, that's when these bass will come up and bite it. But again, we had a 30-degree temperature drop since yesterday, so not overly confident today for something moving. I predict they're gonna want something finessier. I like to throw a chatterbait pretty much the same as I'll throw a square bill setup wise. I'm throwing it right now on the 6.6 medium heavy. I'll throw it on a 7-foot medium heavy. Typically throw it with either 12 or 15 pound test fluorocarbon. As far as gear ratio for your reel, somewhere in the mid 6s, 6.4, 6.5 to 1 is going to be perfect. You can slow it down real easily. You can speed it up a little faster. Definitely vary up your retrieve with this, as same as you would any other bait. You don't just want to always cast it out and bring it back, you know, same old nonchalant speed. You know, you can kind of speed it up, kind of use it to feel around if you got grass. Speed it up, bringing it through the grass. All right guys, last bait we're going to be covering today is the jig. A jig is definitely probably my all-time favorite bait because it catches a ton of fish everywhere. So right now I'm throwing it in black and blue. Color choice, obviously you're going to want to go with something that's going to stand out a little more, something dark like this when you got really dirty water. If you got it more clear, go with something more natural to the crawls that are in your area, the crayfish, crawls, whatever you want to call them in your area. Now, reason a jig is probably one of my favorite baits is because they're so versatile. So you can throw a jig offshore, real deep for smallmouth, throw a football jig and drag it along the bottom. You can throw a jig like I'm throwing right now, this ball jig, and flip for them. If you're, you know, if you're out on your boat or you're bank fishing like in a spot like this, you can flip to a specific piece of cover that you see. It's just such a versatile bait. You can swim them. You can throw them out there and swim them just like the chatterbait we were just throwing. Only difference, it doesn't have a blade, so it's going to be a little more, you know, obviously quieter and displace less water. Right now I'm throwing this on 15 pound Seaguar Invis-X. 15 pound just because there is quite a bit of debris and cover out here in the water, and that 15 pounds is just going to give me a little more strength. You can throw them on 12, and you know, if you're throwing a super finesse jig, even lighter, but just depending on where you're throwing them, what kind of cover and everything you're around, that's gonna determine what line, what pound test that you want to use. My preference on throwing jigs is to throw them on medium heavy rods, but a lot of guys like to throw them in heavy. Obviously, if you're going to be pitching, you know, if you're down south in Florida and you're pitching into super thick stuff like this, heavier rod is going to help you yank them out of there. But something a little longer, right now I'm throwing a 7-foot medium heavy, or a 7.3 medium heavy, but I'll throw a jig on a 7.6 medium heavy all the time. As far as gear ratio goes for your reel, right now I'm throwing it on a 9.0 to 1. It's a previous generation Revo rocket. But anytime I'm throwing a jig, or if I'm pitching out a soft plastic crawl or creature bait, I like to throw them on the faster gear ratio that I can. Reason why is if that bass comes up and hits that and comes running right at me, that higher gear ratio is going to allow me to take up that slack line and hopefully not lose that fish. Alright guys, well, we got skunked again. Second day in a row that we've been out fishing and gotten skunked since we've been down here. But I do really appreciate you guys hanging out, checking out another video. As always, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to be entered into the weekly bait giveaways, all you have to do is be subscribed and comment down below whatever question I pose or whatever the topic is that week. This week, I'm actually going to be giving away, I'm going to be actually picking 2 winners this week. One from the video I put out 2 days ago, which was part 2 of this series, and then also one from today's video. So if you didn't check out that video, part 2, I'll put a link in the top for you right now. Make sure you're subscribed, comment down below, let me know from this video or the video 2 days ago, part 2, anything that I missed regarding the specific baits we talked about. Comment that down below, make sure you're subscribed, and you could be the lucky winner of some cool baits for that week. Other than that, give this video a huge thumbs up, stay hooked, and hopefully before I leave Louisiana, I can get out here and actually catch some fish. See you next time.